Well, hello everybody. Welcome to Jeff's Baking Blog. Today I'm making a devil's food cake, but with a little bit of raspberry jam in the layers as well. And it's just going to be a 2-layer cake, so 2 layers of sponge with a chocolate ganache and raspberry jam in the middle, and then chocolate ganache all over the top and sides. This is actually quite a simple recipe, but it does have a few steps and it has quite a few ingredients. Now, to start with, I have my oven preheating at 180 Celsius, that's 160 Celsius with a fan, 350 Fahrenheit, and I've greased and floured 2 8-inch cake tins. I've also put parchment paper on the bottom of mine, so they will be ready to take the batter. But I'll go on to the ingredients and I'll explain what we're going to do. So, for the ganache, I have 300 millilitres of double cream, heavy cream is fine. I have 350 grams, which works out at 2 cups of dark chocolate, which I have chopped up a little bit. And I'm going to put my double cream into that chocolate straight away. And then I'm going to melt that on a bain-marie or a double boiler until the chocolate has melted and I can whisk it into the cream. Now, you could do that in a microwave oven if you wanted to. I'm going to do it on a double boiler. Very important that the hot water in the double boiler isn't touching the base of my pan. So I'm going to put that on straight away and just leave that to start melting. I also have 4 tablespoons, 56 grams of butter, which I'm going to put into the hot chocolate and cream mixture once I've whisked it together. So I'll set those to one side for a moment. And then for the cake, I have 200 grams, which is 1.5 cups, of cake and pastry flour. I have half a cup, 60 grams of cocoa powder. I have 265 grams, which is 1 1/3 cups of caster sugar. You could use granulated sugar, but I'm using caster sugar. I have 2 medium eggs, which would be large in the USA, and I've just beaten those together to break them up. I have 113 grams, which is 1 stick of butter, which I've cubed, and it's cool. It's not straight out of the fridge. It's been out of the fridge for about half an hour or so, but that's still quite firm. I have a teaspoon of vanilla extract, half a teaspoon of salt, and 3/4 of a teaspoon of baking soda. 3/4 of a teaspoon of baking soda. Then I have 120 millilitres, half a cup of milk, and 120 millilitres, half a cup of hot water, which I've dissolved about a teaspoon of coffee granules into. You don't have to do that. That should help to bring out the chocolate flavour. So I'm going to put the hot liquid into the milk, and I'm going to set that aside, and then I'm going to start to mix the cake batter, and for that I'm going to put the dry ingredients into the bowl of my stand mixer. And usually I would sift the cocoa powder, but I'm not going to on this occasion. I think it will break down well enough. So with that in the stand mixer, I'm just going to use a whisk to give those a stir around, and that's to get them mixed together a little bit. just like that. And then I'm going to fit my paddle attachment and give it just a little mix around. And then I'm going to add in my butter, and I'm going to mix it around again until the butter has been broken down into the flour mixture, and it's a sort of breadcrumb like texture. So as you can see, that's quite a nice texture now, and I don't see any large lumps of butter in the mixture. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pour into that my coffee and milk and my vanilla extract, and I'm going to mix those together, starting on slow, and I'll scrape down the bowl as I need to. And then I'm going to add my egg in and mix that until it's fully combined. And that looks quite well mixed. So then I have to divide that between my two cake tins. Now you can weigh that if you want to, or you can just do it by eye. So these are evenly distributed now. I'm just going to shake them to level off the batter. And I'm going to put those into the oven, and I'm going to bake them for 30 minutes about, until a skewer in the centre comes out clean. Then I'll take them out of the oven and we'll let them cool down. So my chocolate is starting to melt into the cream. I'm going to put it back on the heat and continue to melt it, and I'll stir it as I'm doing so, and then I'll come back and I'll show you what it looks like. So the chocolate has melted into the cream, and there may still be just a couple of little pieces of chocolate still to melt, but the residual heat will do that. And that needs to firm up, but before that I'm going to put in my butter, and I'm going to stir that around until that has also melted. So as you can see, that's all nicely melted now into the chocolate and cream. And I'm going to set that to one side until it has cooled completely, and it will thicken up. And that's what we need. We need it much thicker than this to put onto our cake. So I'll be back with you once this has cooled down and thickened, and our cakes are out of the oven and they have also cooled down. Our two cakes baked, and I tested them with a skewer and they came out clean. And they've now cooled down completely, and my ganache has also cooled down, and I've just stirred it around a little bit to make sure that it's thick enough. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a couple of tablespoons of raspberry jam. Now you don't have to use this if you don't want to, but I'm doing it because I like the flavour of raspberry jam with chocolate. And I'm going to spread that over the base, the top of one of the cakes, which will actually form the base of the cake. Now you could level this cake off, but I'm not going to. So that's nicely covered that with some jam. And I'm just going to set that to one side for a moment, because I'm going to put the ganache on the underside of the second layer, and I'm going to take probably about a third of my ganache, and I'm simply going to gently spread it over the cake. Like that. And then I'm going to put that onto the top of my bottom layer. Just like that. I'm going to press it down. That's good. And then the remaining ganache is to go over the top and over the sides. And as you can see, I've put some parchment paper down so that I can pull it out and leave the platter clean. And you can just swirl the top if you want to. You can do it any way you wish. So, and then I'm going to remove my papers, and that's my devil's food cake. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut a slice of that. It's rather a large slice. I'm going to put it onto a plate. So that I can then show you how it looks. So that looks quite good, I think. And I'll have a taste of that. That's so lovely and rich. Got the softness of the cake, and I actually just tasted some raspberry as well, and then that beautifully rich and silky smooth ganache. This is very, very good indeed. So that's going to be it for this recipe. I hope you've enjoyed it, and if you have, please give me the thumbs up below the video and click to subscribe to my YouTube channel. In the top right hand corner of the screen there will be an eye that you can click on, and that will take you to a link for this recipe, and I'll also put a link below the video. And then I'll be back with another recipe in the very near future. So until then, happy baking.